When Alara chased her first love abroad, I begged her not to go, but she left without a second glance. A year later, when I got married, Alara flew back. Seeing my wedding ring, Alara, the ever-pampered heiress of the Hayes family, completely fell apart. Her smile was strained. "Kai, are you going to take that off, or should I do it for you?" Her voice trembled. "If you want a ring, I'll buy you one. Just throw this one away, please, I'm begging you." I didn't invite many people to my wedding, just a dozen close friends and family for a simple dinner. My wife took care of everything, making sure I wasn't tired at all. She entertained the guests herself, so I could catch up with my childhood friend. My childhood friend Jin looked at me with a sigh. "I really thought you were going to wait for Alara forever," he said. I looked down and gave a small smile. "I thought so too." He asked, "Does Alara know you're married?" I shook my head. "I don't think so, and there's no reason she needs to." He paused for a moment. "I heard Alara frantically booked a ticket last night, flying back from Paris overnight." I said nothing. In such a hurry, her first love must have run off on her again. It was just like that time he got angry with her and flew to Paris. Right in front of me, Alara booked a flight to go after him. I had pneumonia back then, shivering with cold, even wrapped in a thick blanket. I sat shivering in front of her, watching as her long, elegant fingers tapped her phone without a moment's hesitation, booking a flight for that very night. I clenched my jaw, trying one last time to stop her. "Alara, can't you stay?" Alara looked at me with those dark, shimmering eyes, a careless smile on her face. "You just be a good boy and stay home. I'll bring you back a present." She lifted my chin, gave me a light peck on the lips, and pulled the blanket tighter around me. "What do you want, a watch or some new sneakers?" I didn't answer. Alara loved giving gifts. She'd given me countless things, but never a ring. She didn't give Dario many gifts, but when she did, it was always a ring. I took a deep breath, looking at her slender face and pale skin, and tried again. "Do you really have to go?" The smile on Alara's lips faded slightly. She patted my head. "You know what this is." I froze with nothing left to say. I was the one who had pursued Alara. She had only one condition. Our relationship had to be kept secret, especially from Dario. To put it bluntly, I was her backup plan. I had no right to stop her, even though we were living together, and she'd even taken me to her family's parties. Seeing that I had fallen silent, Alara smiled and kissed my forehead. "Good boy. I'll bring you back a present." I looked down. "When will you be back?" She stood up leisurely, slipping on her dress. "Just a few days." She probably didn't realize then that her first love wasn't just taking a trip. He was studying abroad. She ended up staying there with him for a whole year. I watched Alara's graceful figure disappear and let out a sigh. As if sensing my mood, she turned back. "Before I go, think of anything you want me to do. I'll do whatever it takes." I looked at her face and thought for a moment. "Could you try to find someone for me? Her name is Lila. She's a war correspondent." Alara's expression hardened. "What is she to you?" "If you can't tell me, I'm not helping." I pressed my lips together. "My cousin, from my aunt's side of the family." Her expression softened, and she nodded. "Wait for my call then." She turned and walked away. I watched until she was gone, then pulled a photograph from my wallet. It was a picture of a slender woman who looked remarkably like Alara. I traced the image with my thumb. Alara was always so forgetful. I told her before that I grew up in an orphanage. I don't have an aunt. I'd also told her about a girl at the orphanage, like a little sister to me, who I grew up with and who always depended on me, but she never remembered. And she never once questioned why I loved to look at her face so much, just her face. Alara was truly in love with Dario. Even though he'd been non-committal for years, refusing to settle down, she loved him all the same, willingly and completely. And I was truly in love with Alara, or rather, with her face, the face that looked so much like Lila's. I was always grateful to Alara. She had saved me from drowning in my own despair. When I met her, it had been 3 years since I'd last heard from Lila. Everyone was saying Lila was gone for good. I was a walking ghost, just going through the motions of life, until I saw Alara, a freshman a year below me. The moment I saw her face, so uncannily like Lila's, I broke down in tears. I did everything I could to get close to Alara, treating her with unconditional kindness. Everyone knew I was Alara's shadow, the one who carried her bags and coat, ran her errands, relayed messages when she fought with Dario, and carried her home when she was drunk. I guess I was just too good to her, so good that she couldn't ignore me anymore. So one night, drunk after a fight with Dario, she curled up in my arms and asked, "You like me, don't you?" I looked at that familiar slender face and nodded. From that day on, I became Alera's secret boyfriend, if you can call a backup plan a boyfriend. We stayed like that for years. Alera and Dario never made it official, but she and I ended up moving in together. Sometimes Alera would hold me and say wistfully, "Kai, you're the best man I've ever known. You don't even care about my money." I'd joke back, "Well, if you're offering, I won't say no, but you never do." She'd say, her dark, intense eyes fixed on me, "You don't spend my money, and you never pressure me to go public. You're not like the other guys who've tried to get close to me." She added, "Sometimes I even feel like you're the one treating me as a backup." I'd gently flick her nose and bury my face in her shoulder with a smile. Whether I was a backup or not didn't matter. After all, we'd been together for 6 years. You can't go through that much time with someone and feel nothing. Those 6 years meant a lot to me. But Alera didn't see it that way. She was still just as in love with Dario. If he called her late at night, drunk, she would get dressed and rush out to get him without a second thought. In the past, she would just leave without any explanation, but eventually, she started making excuses, a guilty look on her face. I thought it meant my place in her heart was changing. I was wrong. She still followed Dario abroad, leaving me no room to even ask her to stay, and she was gone for a year. Alera did come back once during that time. She was drunk and called me to come get her. When I arrived, she was in a VIP booth at a club on a video call with Dario. When she saw me, she waved me over. "Kai, come here." She turned the phone so Dario could see me. "Let me introduce you. This is Kai, my boyfriend of 6 years." Dario's expression remained cold and detached, but his eyes scanned over me, lingering on my face for a few seconds. Then he smirked. "So, Alera, you finally moved on." Alera laughed along. "That's right. Why would I keep chasing after you when I have a sweet, caring man right here?" Dario watched as Alera put her arm around me and asked how long we had been a couple. I answered honestly, 6 years. Dario ended the call. The ever-arrogant Dario lost his composure, not even bothering to say goodbye. The arm Alera had around me suddenly tensed. That night, Alera was sleeping beside me as usual, but she took a phone call in the middle of the night. When she came back, she held me and kissed me relentlessly, staying awake the entire night just to watch me. By morning, her voice was raw. "Kai," she said, "we're done." I hadn't slept either. I had a feeling this was coming. I'd overheard her phone call. It was Dario, telling her nonchalantly to break up with me, promising he'd be with her the moment she did. I knew I could never compete with Dario. I just nodded, not wanting to make a scene. I turned my back to her and sighed. She wrapped her arms around me from behind, holding me so tightly I could barely breathe. She whispered in my ear, "I have news about your cousin. She's not dead. She just lost her memory, and she's living overseas." My entire body went rigid. I turned to face her. "Can you help me bring her back?" Alera gave me one last kiss on the lips. "Yes, I owe you this." That very day, she got on a plane and flew back to Dario. A few days later, I was reunited with Lila. She was in the best hospital in the country, being treated by top specialists. Soon her memory came back, and she remembered me. Lila had been injured and lost her memory while saving a child in a war zone. The moment she fully recovered, she pulled me into a hug. Her gentle voice was a balm to my soul. "I'm so sorry I was gone for 10 years. You must have suffered so much." The tears I'd held back for so long finally fell. The gaping hole in my heart was finally quietly filled. Lila and I had already lost 10 years. We weren't going to waste another decade. We got engaged soon after. Lila asked me if I had fallen for someone else during those 10 years, telling me not to make an impulsive decision I might regret. For a fleeting moment, Alera's face flashed through my mind, but it was gone as quickly as it came. I shook my head and told her with a smile that there was no one else. I gently traced the scar on her forehead, a reminder of her bravery, and repeated, "No one." The truth is, before Lila asked, I'd had dreams about Alera several times. In the dreams, she'd be looking at me with that cold smirk, telling me not to get any ideas. It always left a bitter taste in my mouth. But as time went on, the dreams of Alera stopped. It was as if those 6 years had simply drifted away. Jin would sometimes ask if I ever thought about Alera. I'd pause for a second before shaking my head. I hope she and Dario are happy together, I'd say. It's better if we just forget each other. At least I was doing my best to put her out of my mind for good. But a few days later, while having dinner with Lila, I ran into one of Alera's old college friends. She spotted us from a distance and walked over, calling out, "Hey girl, why didn't you call me when you got back in town?" She stopped short after a few steps, her face a mask of shock. Lila and Alera looked alike, but Lila has that small scar on her forehead from her time in the field. Their auras were completely different, too. Lila lacked Alera's pampered, delicate demeanor. She was more grounded and composed. The friend stared at Lila, then looked at me bewildered. "Kai, is this?" She seemed to process it for a second. "Wait, did you cheat on Alera?" I shook my head. "We broke up." The friend looked even more stunned. "But Alera said you were still waiting for her." I cut her off. "This is my fiancé. We're getting married soon." She was speechless. After a final glance at Lila and me holding hands, she turned and hurried away, already on her phone. I started to explain to Lila, but before I could get a word out, she smiled. "It's all in the past. There's no need to talk about it." She smoothed my hair. "I couldn't expect you to wait 10 years just because I was gone." My eyes welled up, a sudden wave of all the past hurt washing over me. During those first 3 years after Lila disappeared, I clutched my phone every single day, waiting for it to ring. I never turned it off, and my heart leaped every time an unknown number called. The first year, I prayed for a call telling me she was just injured and on her way home. The second year, I just hoped for a call telling me she was still alive. By the third year, I was terrified of the phone, but I still had to answer every call. By the time Alera came into my life, I had been diagnosed with severe anxiety and panic disorder. Her face was the only thing keeping me afloat. It wasn't that I didn't feel humiliated being her stand-in, but I just couldn't bring myself to leave that face. Looking at her was the only thing that gave me the strength to go on. So did I love Alera? I honestly don't know, but I was grateful to her. So grateful that I willingly endured the humiliation of everyone knowing I was just her backup. In my eyes, for those 6 years, Alera was a good person, the person who saved me. I thought that at the very least, she would remember me as someone who was kind and considerate. I never expected she would curse my name, calling me a liar through gritted teeth. Alera's call came late at night. I slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Lila. I assumed she was calling to arrange picking up her things from my apartment, but the moment I answered, she spat the word out, her voice dripping with a venom so sharp it felt like she wanted to tear me apart. "Liar." Her voice was raspy. "Kai, you're a liar. You told me she was your cousin. You lied to me." All of her usual arrogance was gone. She was trying to hold back her rage, but I could hear a hint of something else in her voice, something that sounded like hurt, the raw hurt of a child. I looked down and sighed. "I'm sorry." The apology came easily, out of habit. I'd spent 6 years apologizing to her just like that. The reasons were always different. Apologizing for looking at her too long when Dario was around because it might upset him, for trying to hold her hand in front of Dario's friends, for calling her when she was out to dinner with Dario. Each time I would look at that face and obediently say I was sorry. In the beginning, she would hesitate before patting my head like a child. "Just don't do it next time." Later, she started propping her chin on her hand, smiling at me. "You're so cute when you apologize." Eventually, she stopped setting so many rules, but the instinct to apologize was still there, so the words just came out. "I'm sorry." Alera paused, then said through clenched teeth, "An apology isn't going to work this time, Kai. I'm really angry. If I'd known, I would have left your little girlfriend to rot in that war zone for the rest of her life, instead of flying halfway around the world to get cheated on." My expression turned to ice. She didn't seem to notice, pressing on. "Have you touched her, Kai? Answer me. Have you slept with her?" I cut through her frantic words. "Alera, stop talking about her like that. She's important to me." The other end of the line went silent. A moment later, I heard something shatter. Alera's voice was a low, tight laugh. "Kai, you never once said I was important to you," she said. "You remember this. I never told you to leave, so you're still mine." "I'm not yours," I corrected her, my brow furrowed. "We were done the moment you left for Paris to be with Dario." Alera was quiet for a moment, then asked softly, "So this is you getting back at me, isn't it?" She sounded more convinced now. "You're with her to make me angry, right? If I gave you a chance to take it all back." My frown deepened. Alara, stop it. You and Dario are finally together. Just focus on that and be happy. Alara didn't say anything. Her breathing was heavy and quick. After a moment, she hung up without another word. I listened to the dead air and sighed. Alara hadn't changed at all. The mention of Dario's name was always enough to bring her back to her senses. I remembered a time she'd gotten drunk and called me to pick her up in the middle of the night. I'd thrown a coat over my pajamas and rushed out to find her stumbling out of a bar. It was freezing and my hands were numb with cold, but she refused to go home, making a scene on the sidewalk. Her friend, at a loss, apologized to me before pulling out her phone to video call Dario. I'm going to let Dario see what a mess you are. Suddenly, Alara straightened up, instantly sober, and got into the car without a word. Her friend and I just stood there on the curb, looking at each other. Her friend's eyes were a mix of embarrassment and pity. I'm sorry, she said. I didn't know what else to do. He's the only one she'll listen to. I shook my head. It's fine. I don't mind. That night, I stayed up making her soup and looking after her, and all night long she held on to me and whispered Dario's name. A voice inside my head kept asking, Kai, do you really not mind? Then why is the blood in your veins running so cold? I sighed, forcing myself to pull back from the memory. I glanced towards the bedroom. The woman I loved was in there. The past didn't matter. What mattered was that now, I truly didn't care anymore. Lila and I began planning our wedding. We went for our suit and dress fittings, and I ignored several calls from Alara. But my phone wouldn't stop buzzing. It was a flood of messages from Alara on Facebook. She'd never sent me that many messages in a single month before. Kai, I never said you could leave. Kai, you're going to regret this. What are you doing? Answer me. You never used to ignore me like this. Annoyed by the constant buzzing, I finally grabbed my phone in the dressing room and shot back a quick, I'm with Lila. She's trying on wedding dresses. Please stop. The phone went silent for a moment. Then it began to vibrate uncontrollably, a frantic, non-stop buzzing as if the person on the other end had lost their mind. I had no choice but to answer. Alara, if you keep this up, we can't even be friends. She completely ignored me, launching into a barrage of questions. What's so great about her, Kai? Marriage isn't the same as just dating. She took a deep breath. Kai, listen to me. Do your parents even approve of this? Why don't you wait for me to get back? I can talk to them. I cut her off calmly. Alara, stop. The line went quiet. I said quietly, Alara, I'm really getting married. We grew up together. We know everything about each other, and we're in love. She started to say something else, but I cut her off again. Dario won't be happy about this. She said nothing, but I could hear her breathing become ragged. I sighed. I've told you before, I grew up in an orphanage. I don't have parents. Why can't you ever remember that? Then I hung up. Alara didn't call back. Lila was waiting patiently for me outside the dressing room, not asking why I'd taken so long. When I came out, she just pulled me into a long hug, holding on tight. Kai, she whispered, thank you for loving me. I held her close. And thank you. We both grew up in the orphanage, taught from a young age to cherish every bit of kindness shown to us. Unlike Alara, the heiress who was used to getting everything she ever wanted, it was only natural she'd have a meltdown when her ever-obedient ex-boyfriend suddenly moved on and got married. But I was confident that time would heal her wounded pride. Eventually, she would have to let go of her resentment and move on. But I had overestimated Alara's ability to accept reality. A few days later, just before the wedding, another late-night call came from Alara. She sounded like she'd been drinking. Kai, you've really done it now. My patience was gone. I was planning to block her number. Her voice was hoarse and low as she spoke, each word heavy with regret. Why didn't I just look at the photograph back then? If I had just looked at it once, I would have known. Her voice was a mixture of anger and hurt. But I didn't even glance at it. I just pulled her out of a war zone, got her the best medical care, and delivered her right to you. Why the hell did it take me this long to finally look at it? I basically hand-delivered my own replacement. Alara was shaking with rage. She lowered her voice, trying to control herself, but the tremor was unmistakable. Kai, were you just using me as a substitute? I fell silent. She was silent, too. After a long moment, she hissed through her teeth, say something. Why won't you say anything? But her question just made me remember something else. The time Dario had another girl chasing him, and Alara posted a picture of my back on her Instagram. I was wearing a new designer jacket, the exact one Dario had been wanting. It was the only time I ever wore anything she bought me. I usually just left her gifts in the closet with the tags still on, but that day she insisted I wear it so she could take a picture. It was the first time she'd ever posted a picture of me. It got a ton of likes, and the comments were full of people asking who I was. Alara had her arm around me, showing me the comments and calling me by that pet name she used. Honey, they're all asking about you. She only called me that when she was in a good mood, and she toyed with a strand of her hair. I told them you were my man. My friends are so jealous. I smiled. But then I saw a new comment pop up from Dario. There's a music festival this weekend. You in? In a moment later, Alara glanced at her phone and her hand froze. She flipped her phone face down on the table and casually pulled out a credit card. Go buy yourself some new shoes. Then she stood up and put on her jacket to leave. As I watched her walk towards the door, something made me call out. Alara, can't you stay? She paused with her hand on the doorknob, then turned back with a smile. Feeling lonely? Just go shopping for a while longer. Buy some more clothes, get a new watch. As she closed the door behind her, she added, I'll be back in a bit, honey. I watched the door click shut and lowered my head, a hollow feeling in my chest. By then, we were out of college and working. She'd stopped calling me babe and started using honey instead. It made me feel like something between us was changing. I stared at the credit card on the coffee table for a long time before putting it away in a drawer. I never touched it, and I never let my hopes get up again. A few days later, Alara came back. The Instagram post with my picture had been deleted. When a friend called and asked why she deleted the picture of her boyfriend, she answered, Oh, that was just some cute guy I saw on the street. I deleted it so people wouldn't get the wrong idea. I was holding her in my arms at that very moment, and she just snuggled closer to me as if to soothe me. After she hung up, she kissed my ear. Such a good boy. After a moment's thought, she reposted the picture, but this time she set the privacy to only me. She nuzzled against my chest. You're too handsome. I don't want to share. I looked at her face and smiled, saying nothing, my heart a placid lake, just like that credit card locked away in a drawer. Back then, I never complained. I just swallowed the bitterness and kept it to myself. But now, here was Alara, full of indignation. Kai, answer me. Was I just a substitute? I sighed, deciding it was time to be blunt. And what about me, Alara? What do you think I was for the last 6 years? Alara froze. I went for 6 years. I never once complained to you about my role. It's been a few days for you, and you're already falling apart. I could hear her breathing become frantic. I sighed again, hung up, and then blocked her number and her Facebook profile. It was time to say goodbye to those 6 years for good. Lila and I got our marriage license and held the reception in one smooth process. I planned everything meticulously to give Lila the wedding of her dreams. From that day on, I was no longer alone. I had a home. I had a family. But at the wedding, Jin told me that Alara had frantically booked an overnight flight and was on her way back. I didn't really believe him. After all, she and Dario were finally together. She wouldn't be impulsive enough to just leave him and fly back. But I never imagined she would actually appear. The Alara I remembered was always glamorous and vibrant, exuding an air of effortless wealth. The Alara standing before me now was pale and haggard, clutching a small jewelry box, her eyes fixed on Lila and me. Or rather, she seemed to be staring at Lila. Her presence sent a jolt through me. Alara's gaze flickered between Lila and me. Then she crooked a finger, summoning me over. Lila had just stepped away to greet some colleagues. Fearing a scene, I rushed over to Alara, keeping my voice low. Please don't cause any trouble. This wedding means everything to me. I don't want anything to go wrong. Alara's face fell. My plea seemed only to infuriate her. She glanced over at Lila. Kai, between the two of us, who's the copy? I was taken aback, not understanding what she meant. She asked again, her voice sharp. Tell me, husband, between her and me, who's the real substitute? She called me husband, with an easy familiarity, as if nothing had changed between us. But she only ever used that name when she was in a good mood, and her good moods were always tied to Dario. I would have preferred she just called me Kai. My face hardened. Alara, I'm not your husband. I gestured towards Lila. I'm her husband, the legally certified kind. Alara stared at me, her face turning pale with fury, but she said nothing. I instantly felt a pang of regret for being so harsh. She was a pampered heiress, and after being provoked like that, there was no telling what she might do. I stood there, frozen, trying to figure out how to get her to leave, when I heard Lila call my name. My heart pounded with anxiety, but I tried not to let it show, my mind replaying Alera's icy expression and worrying about my wedding. Lila, as if sensing nothing was wrong, leaned against me and gently soothed my nerves. "Don't wander off, or I'll lose you." She patted my shoulder. "Don't worry, I'm not going anywhere." I held Lila tightly, listening to the steady rhythm of her heart. My anxiety vanished. I smiled and nodded. "Okay." Lila stood on her toes to give me a quick kiss, and I pulled her in and kissed her deeply. As long as Lila was with me, nothing else mattered. With Lila by my side, I wasn't afraid of anything. I poured all my love and relief into that kiss. When the kiss ended, I saw that Alera was gone. She hadn't made a scene as I'd feared. She had just left quietly. Jin told me later that she had fled in a hurry, as if escaping from a monster. Just then, a text from an unknown number buzzed on my phone. "You never," smiled at me like that. Jin was still beside me, animated. Alera looked really shaken up. I've never seen her look so defeated. She even stumbled. "What's gotten into the great Miss Hayes?" I just shook my head, saying nothing, and held on to Lila's arm, not wanting to let go. We had depended on each other as children, fallen in love as teenagers, and now we were finally husband and wife. Nothing else mattered. I was with the woman I loved. Before Alera left, she asked Jin to give me the ring from the box. Jin scoffed. "A little late to be buying rings now, isn't it?" Jin had never liked Alera. He'd always been frustrated with me for staying with her, feeling I could do better, but knowing he couldn't change my mind. Alera was generous with me, always showering me with different gifts, but never a ring. Once at dinner, Jin had jokingly asked her when she was going to get me a ring, even offering to have me pay for it. Alera just made a phone call, and a little while later her driver showed up with an expensive designer bracelet for me. Jin's hands were shaking with anger. I said, "A ring? After all these years with you, doesn't Kai deserve a ring?" Alera just draped her arm over the back of my chair and laughed. "He'll get one eventually. What's the rush?" She tilted my chin up, smiling as she made a promise. "Within 10 years, I'll put a ring on your finger." I just looked down and smiled, saying nothing. In that moment, I missed Lila terribly. Lila would never make a promise like that, all smiles and no substance. It was a stark reminder that no matter how similar their faces were, they were not the same person. After that dinner, I tried to distance myself from Alera. I stopped answering her calls and messages, changed the code on my apartment door, and stopped going over to her place. But a few days later, she had a flare-up of her stomach condition and sent me a video call. Her face was pale and drawn. I was suddenly reminded of how frail Lila had looked before she disappeared. I couldn't help myself. Enduring Jin's disapproving glares, I went to see her. Her apartment was a mess, littered with empty wine bottles. She had clearly been drinking heavily during the week I was gone. I sighed and started cleaning up, making her soup, doing her laundry, and peeling apples for her until she was better. She grabbed my hand. "Don't you dare avoid me again, Kai." I wasn't lying. "I really will get you a ring within 10 years. She gestured with her hands. "I'm going to design it myself." I smiled. "Then why not now?" Alera fell silent. After a moment, she said quietly, "Because right now, there's an obsession I need to deal with first." She pulled me down onto the bed to lie next to her, her heart beating rapidly against my chest. "Kai, I'm not lying. Just wait for me. 10 years. I looked at her face and said nothing. She held me tighter as if afraid I would run away. "So it's a deal?" 10 years. I pressed my face to her chest, listening to her heart. A heartbeat doesn't lie. 10 years later, on my wedding night with Lila, neither of us slept much. Early the next morning, while Lila was still asleep, I went downstairs to take out the trash, including the used condom wrappers from the night before. As soon as I stepped outside, I saw Alera. She was leaning against her Ferrari, her eyes completely bloodshot. The pavement around her heels was littered with cigarette butts. She must have been there all night. Her eyes flickered to the clear trash bag in my hand, and she quickly looked away. Her voice was shaking badly. "Kai, I waited here all night. I saw you turn out the lights." All her former pride was gone. Her eyes avoided the trash bag, but they couldn't miss the hickey on my neck. The proud Hayes family heiress stared at my neck as if she just lost her most prized possession, and her eyes began to well up. Her voice was hoarse with despair. "Kai, I'm sick. I feel awful. In the past, hearing those words would have made me drop everything to take care of her. I would have cooked for her, peeled her apples, given her medicine, and taken her temperature. But now all I could say was, "You should go to a pharmacy." Alara swayed on her feet, and her eyes grew redder. A single tear rolled down her cheek, but she didn't wipe it away. She just kept staring at me. "Kai, when I saw you smile at Lila, it made me think. I can be like that for you too." She closed her eyes and clenched her jaw, as if forcing out the words. "Even if I was just a substitute, substitutes can become the real thing. Can't they, Kai? I can't stand seeing you with someone else." I was speechless. I just held up my right hand. The wedding ring on my finger gleamed in the morning light. It wasn't expensive, but I had designed it myself. Alara's face went even whiter. "Kai, take it off. Are you going to do it, or am I?" She begged, her voice raspy. "If you want a ring, I'll buy you one. Any one you want. I don't care how much it costs. Just throw that one away, please." I shook my head. "I can't, Alara. This is my wedding ring." I looked down at the ring on my finger. "Lila gave it to me. I love it." Alara choked back a sob. "Don't say that, Kai. It hurts. It really hurts." I sighed. I didn't hate Alara. After all, her face had gotten me through the darkest period of my life. I wanted her to be able to let go and move on. I was trying to find the right words to say to her when I looked up and saw a surprising figure approaching. It was Dario. His usually cool, handsome face was contorted with anger. He stared at me in disbelief, then turned to Alara. "Alara, people told me, but I didn't believe it. You broke up with me in the middle of the night and flew back here for him." He glanced at the ring on my finger as if he'd been personally insulted. "He's so ordinary and he's married? You broke up with me for him." Dario was furious. In the past, one angry word from Dario would have sent Alara chasing him across the planet. But now she didn't even turn her head. She acted as if he wasn't even there, her eyes fixed on me. "Kai, I can't do this without you. I really can't. I can't sleep. I haven't slept in days." She looked utterly exhausted. "Please, come back to me, Kai. Honey, I'll change. I'll change everything. I'll never even look at another man again." Her voice was a desperate hoarse. A substitute can become the real thing. People get divorced. "I'll change. I swear I'll change. Please." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I was too stunned to speak. I had never seen Alara like this. Never. The proud heiress of the Hayes family had never begged for anything in her life. Not even from Dario during all their years of drama. Dario was stunned into silence. His face flushed red, then drained of color. Finally, he spat. "Don't you regret this? You won't get a second chance from me," and stormed off. Alara didn't even flinch. I felt I had to say something. "He's really gone, Alara." But she just reached for my arm. I never planned on it being long-term with him. He was just an obsession. When I think about marriage, you're the only person who comes to mind, Alara. "Alara," I said, rubbing my temples and cutting her off. I was worried Lila would wake up and find me gone, so I decided to lay all the cards on the table. The truth is, I didn't always see you as a substitute. There were times I started to fall for you. How could I not? 6 years of intimacy, of being that close to someone. A flicker of hope lit up in Alara's eyes. I sighed. "But you were the one who pushed me away, Alara. Don't you remember? Every single time I started to let my guard down, you chose Dario." I gave a bitter laugh. "You pushed me away. You were a constant reminder that Lila would never have treated me that way, that you could never be her." The light in Alara's eyes faded. She still tried, her voice weak. "I can change, Kai. I'll change." I shook my head, cutting her off. "Alara, you don't love me. You just can't stand the idea of someone not being in love with you. First it was Dario, and now it's me." I pointed to my chest. "I can't get tangled up with you again. My heart is full now. It's full of my wife. There's no room for you anymore." The last glimmer of hope in Alara's eyes died. I didn't say another word. I just walked past her and headed back to my building. When I got to the entrance, I saw Lila standing there quietly. I had no idea how long she'd been awake. "Panicked, you heard all of that." Lila stepped into my arms. "Don't panic," she held me and said. "Alara called me. She told me about you, too. She asked me to give you up." "What did you say?" I asked, looking up in surprise. I wired her double the amount she spent on my recovery and travel expenses, and I sent her a wedding invitation. I was at a loss for words. I didn't know what to say. "So that's how Alara found the hotel for our wedding?" Lila really knew how to twist the knife. I don't know when Alara finally left. I didn't have the time or energy to care. I was busy planning my honeymoon with Lila. On a beautiful sunny afternoon, Lila and I arrived in Hawaii for our honeymoon. Blue skies, white clouds, turquoise water, and golden sand. A gentle breeze blew as Lila and I relaxed on the beach, soaking up the sun until evening, when we returned to our wooden cabin by the shore. I had mentioned wanting to stay in a cabin just like this to Alara years ago, but we never got around to it. When I told Lila about it, she immediately booked it for our honeymoon. I was standing at the window looking out at the ocean at night when I saw a familiar figure in front of the cabin next door, sitting alone on the sand, drinking a beer. It was Alara, all by herself, surrounded by empty bottles. I pressed my lips together and closed the window. Before I could draw the curtains, Lila came up behind me, wrapping her arms around me and kissing me. Out of the corner of my eye, I could still see Alara's lonely figure on the beach, drinking bottle after bottle as Lila pulled me towards the bedroom. When I woke up for a glass of water in the morning, I glanced outside and was shocked to see Alara still on the beach, completely motionless. A jolt of fear went through me. I rushed outside and knelt beside her to check if she was breathing. Thank God she was. I clutched my chest in relief. As I stood up to leave, her hand shot out and grabbed my arm. Her eyes fluttered open. Those once beautiful eyes were now clouded with drunkenness and a deep, helpless sorrow as they looked at me in the morning light. She begged in a low whisper, "Kai, can I just hug you one more time? Just for a second, that's all." I shook my head, pulled my arm free, and stood up. "I'm married, Alara." She was heavily intoxicated, her voice a strange mix of a laugh and a sob, barely audible over the crashing waves. "But I can't fucking let you go, Kai. It's not about wanting what I can't have. It was about loving you and not even realizing it. Kai, honey, please give me another chance. I swear I'll never take you for granted again." I stopped in my tracks and turned back towards her. This had to end. It was time to make her give up for good. Walking back seemed to give her a sliver of hope. She looked up at me expectantly. I just pulled out my phone, found a photo, and silently held it out for her to see. It was a picture of a pregnancy test. 2 pink lines. Lila's pregnant. Alara froze. After a few seconds, she shoved the phone away as if it were a venomous snake, refusing to look at it again. She was utterly speechless. I stood up, looking down at her, and repeated the same words she had said to me all that time ago. "We're done." Then I turned and walked back to my cabin. Behind me, there was only silence. After that, I truly put Alara out of my mind. Lila and I built a happy life together, and the past faded into a distant memory. 10 months later, Lila gave birth to our daughter. At her 100-day party, Lila carried our daughter around, showing her off to everyone with a smile that never left her face. I sat to the side, watching my wife and daughter, my heart full of warmth. A waiter from the catering staff came over with an elegant gift box. "Sir, a woman asked me to give this to you just now." Thinking it was a gift for the baby from one of Lila's friends, I thanked him and opened it. Inside were 2 items. One was a small, shining gold locket for the baby. The other was an expensive-looking men's ring. I recognized the ring immediately. Jin leaned in for a closer look and gasped. "Isn't that the ring Alara tried to give you at the wedding? The one you rejected that I had to give back to her?" I was stunned, unsure of what to say. A moment later, I grabbed the box and ran outside, but I was too late. I only caught a glimpse of Alara's slender back as she got into her familiar Ferrari and sped away. Jin, who had followed me out, sighed. "If she had just been like this from the start, maybe you too." I shook my head and managed a small smile. There's no point thinking about that. There are no what-ifs in life. What's lost is lost. There are no second chances and no cure for regret. I went back inside the hall, looked at my wife and my daughter, and felt an overwhelming sense of gratitude. Lila came over and hugged me. "Is there something on my face? You keep staring at me." I shook my head and leaned into her embrace. "I'm just feeling lucky that I didn't miss out on you, that I didn't miss out on my true happiness."